Picture this scenario, and I think it's a pretty universal experience for most of you listening. You are standing at the front of a room. Maybe it's a boardroom with your executive team, or maybe it's a classroom full of teenagers.
Or even just, a Zoom call where everyone has their cameras totally off.
Oh, the worst. Yes. So you've just spent 10 minutes passionately explaining a new concept or maybe pitching a new strategy. You pause, you look out at the sea of faces or black squares, and you ask that golden question. Does anyone have any thoughts? And what do you get?
Absolute deafening silence, just the void.
Exactly, the void. The crickets are chirping. Everyone is suddenly finding their shoes incredibly fascinating, or they're aggressively taking notes to avoid eye contact with you.
Yeah.
It is the stuff of nightmares for anyone trying to lead a discussion.
It's painful. And usually, as the person at the front of that room, you interpret that silence in one of, well, two ways.
Right.
You either think everyone understands everything perfectly, which, let's be honest, is rarely true.
Yeah.
Or you think nobody cares. You think it's just apathy.
You think they aren't listening, or they're just totally bored. But our deep dive today suggests a third option, and it honestly changes everything. It suggests that they are simply terrified.
That's the core shift we're exploring today.
Yeah.
We are looking at a really fascinating set of materials from a professional development workshop. This was held in Yilan, Taiwan.
Yeah, and it was designed specifically for English teachers, right? Focusing on the collaboration between foreign English teachers, what they call FETs, and local English teachers, or LETs.
Exactly. And our guide for this journey is the workshop leader, a guy named Tony Cheen from Yilan Fuxing Junior High School.
And what I love about the source material is that Tony isn't just talking high-level academic theory here. He's completely in the trenches. He's dealing with multicultural curriculum design and the very real day-to-day friction of trying to get teenagers to speak a second language in front of their peers.
Which is huge, because if you can get a teenager to speak a second language in front of their peers, you can probably get a VP to speak up in a high-stakes strategy meeting. The psychological principles are identical.
They really are, and that is exactly what our mission is today. We want to unpack Tony's strategies, specifically his Share Start framework and this World Cafe discussion model.
Right.
We aren't just talking about teaching grammar here. We're getting into the nuts and bolts of turning a passive, silent room into an active, vibrant one.
It really is a masterclass in communication dynamics. So we're going to break this down into a roadmap with three main pillars for you.
Sounds good.
First, we have to understand the psychology of safety, basically why people don't speak in the first place. Second, we'll look at the mechanics of structure. How to have fun and high energy without it turning into just total chaos.
Which is a very fine line to walk.
It is, a very fine line. And third, we'll tackle differentiation. How to handle a room where everyone is at a totally different skill level without just burning yourself out.
Okay, well, let's jump right into the deep end then. Pillar 1, the psychology of silence. The source material highlights a core observation Tony makes right off the bat, which is students aren't silent because they can't speak. Like, they have the words.
Right. He argues they are silent because they don't feel safe.
Yeah.
It's a risk calculation.
A risk calculation.
Yeah, think about it. In a typical classroom, or even a high-stakes meeting for that matter, speaking up means opening yourself up to judgment. You're performing.
Ah, I see.
If I say the wrong word, if my pronunciation is bad, if my idea is just plain stupid, I lose social capital.
So silence is actually a defense mechanism. It's totally logical. It's like, if I stay quiet, my risk of embarrassment is 0. But if I speak, the risk is non-zero.
Exactly. It's self-preservation. And this is where Tony introduces his framework. He calls it Share Start REF, which stands for self-learning, thinking, and expression. But the real gold here, for me at least, is what he calls scaffolding expression.
Scaffolding expression. I love this concept of scaffolding because it implies that you don't ask someone to just jump straight up to the roof,
Yeah.
You build them a ladder so they can climb up there themselves.
That is the perfect analogy.
Yeah.
And the ladder he builds is brilliant because it's so simple. It has 3 distinct steps to slowly lower the risk.
Okay.
Step 1 is choral response.
So this is the old school repeat after me kind of thing.
Ideally, yes.
Yeah.
Or read this sentence together as a class. It seems basic, maybe even a little outdated at first glance, but psychologically it is crucial.
Why is that?
Because it provides anonymity in numbers. You are speaking, your vocal cords are actually engaging, but if you mess up a vowel sound, nobody hears you specifically. You are hidden in the herd.
That makes a lot of sense. It breaks the physical barrier of silence without the social risk. You're kind of warming up the engine. Okay, so once the room is humming and people are actually making noise together, What is step 2?
This is my favorite part, and honestly, it's the most transferable to the corporate world. Step 2 is the pair whisper.
The pair whisper. It sounds like a secret agent move.
It is very tactical. Instead of asking a student to stand up and address the whole room, which is super high stakes, you tell them to turn to their neighbor and just whisper the answer or discuss the idea for 30 seconds.
Oh, wow. That changes the dynamic completely. I'm not performing for the teacher or the boss. I'm just chatting with the person sitting right next to me.
Exactly. The stakes drop to near zero. But here's the trick. The brain is still doing the work. You are formulating the sentence. You are finding the vocabulary. You're essentially rehearsing.
So you're validating your thought before you ever have to go public with it.
Precisely. So when you get to step 3, which is group voice, or asking for a volunteer, you aren't improvising anymore. You aren't staring at your shoes because you're afraid you don't know the answer. You've already said the words out loud to your neighbor. You know you can do it.
So by the time the teacher asks, who wants to share, the hands actually go up because the fear is gone.
Right. It shifts the whole focus from testing the student, trying to catch them in a mistake, to empowering them and saying, I'm going to give you chances to get this right before it actually counts.
I can see how that applies to meetings instantly. Like instead of asking any feedback on the Q3 projections, which always gets silence.
Always.
You say, turn to the person next to you and spend 2 minutes finding one hole in this strategy.
Guaranteed you will get better feedback because you've built the scaffold. You've created psychological safety.
Man, that is powerful. Okay, let's move to the second pillar, because this is where it gets really interesting for anyone who has ever tried to run a team building activity or a workshop and just watched it go completely off the rails. We are talking about gamification.
Yes. There is this huge myth in education, and definitely in corporate training too, that fun equals chaos. Teachers are terrified that if they introduce a game or a competition, they're going to lose control of the room.
I can totally see that. You introduce a race to the whiteboard, everyone starts yelling, and suddenly you aren't teaching English, you're just refereeing a shouting match.
But the source material makes a really profound point here. Chaos doesn't come from the students being wild or the game being fun. Chaos comes from a lack of structure by the facilitator.
Okay, so it's a design flaw, not a people flaw.
Precisely. Tony's workshop outlines the 3 must-haves for control. If you have these 3 things in place, you can run a really high-energy game without it turning into total anarchy.
Lay them on us. What's the first one?
Number 1 is strict, short time limits. And when I say short, I mean short. We are talking 30 to 60 seconds.
Wow, that feels incredibly fast.
It does, but it creates urgency. If you give a group 5 minutes to brainstorm, they spend 4 minutes chatting about their weekend and 1 minute actually working.
Sure.
But if you give them 60 seconds, they laser focus immediately. It keeps the energy productive and prevents the noise from dragging on and becoming disruptive.
Okay, so urgency via time limits. What is number 2?
Roles. You never just say discuss amongst yourselves. You assign specific jobs to everyone in the group. In the workshop, they suggest roles like leader, scribe, timer, and speaker.
I see. So everyone has accountability. You can't just sit back and let the loud kid do all the work because you're the scribe. You literally have to write it down.
Exactly. It distributes the cognitive load. Nobody can hide, but nobody has to do everything either. And that brings us to the third must-have, which connects right back to the timing. Signals. You need a clear, nonverbal way to cut through all that noise.
Like a whistle?
Or a specific clap pattern, or a countdown, or a freeze command. The source emphasizes that the end signal is non-negotiable. You train the response, so you have high intensity for 60 seconds, and then snap silence.
So when you combine the short bursts, specific roles, clear signals, you aren't trying to suppress the noise, you're actually channeling it.
You are transforming noise into productive energy. It's the difference between a riot and a symphony.
Oh, I like that.
Both are loud, but one is structured and has a conductor.
That is a great analogy. It allows for excitement without the constant fear of losing the room. All right, now let's talk about the third pillar. This one really resonated with me because it addresses the problem of the mixed-level classroom.
Oh, this is the nightmare scenario for teachers, and honestly for managers too.
Right.
You have one person who is practically an expert and another who is barely grasping the basics, and they're both sitting in the exact same room, needing to be engaged by the exact same content.
And usually the traditional solution is differentiation, which is just a fancy word for create 3 completely different lesson plans for every single class.
Which is a complete recipe for burnout. I mean, who has the time for that?
Nobody. So the workshop proposes what I like to call the smart way to differentiate.
Tony calls it layered output. And the philosophy is incredibly simple. Instead of preparing different materials or inputs, you prepare one single task, but with 3 different output options.
How does that look in practice? Can you give us an example?
Sure. Let's say the topic is my hometown. You are teaching vocabulary about where you live. For the struggling students, let's call them level A, their output requirement might be a word bank or a fill-in-the-blank worksheet. Their main goal is simply participation and recognizing the words.
So the barrier to entry is super low. They can succeed just by identifying the right words.
Right. They aren't paralyzed by complex grammar rules. Then for level B, the medium group, the requirement is constructing full sentences using those words. They actually have to put the grammar together.
And then what about the advanced group?
For level C, the task is critical thinking. They have to express an opinion about their hometown and actually provide a reason, like, I like my hometown because, or we need to fix the traffic because.
That's brilliant. So everyone is working on the theme of my hometown. Everyone is in the same room hearing the exact same lecture, but what they actually produce is tailored to their specific ability.
Exactly. And this is key for the co-teaching model mentioned in the source material. Remember, this workshop was specifically for foreign teachers and local teachers working together.
Right, and this layered output seems to completely solve the problem of, what do we both do?
It does, because the foreign teacher can teach the main concept to the whole room, providing the expression and being the model for the language. Then, while the students work, the local teacher can circulate and support the level A students who need help with that word bank. Meanwhile, the foreign teacher can challenge the level C students to deepen their reasoning.
It turns the classroom from a one-size-fits-all situation into a choose-your-own-adventure.
And crucially, it respects the students. The level A student isn't failing at a level C task. They are succeeding at a level A task. That builds the exact confidence they need to eventually move up to level B.
Now, speaking of moving up, let's talk about what they are actually teaching. The curriculum design in this Yilan workshop is fascinating to me because it seems to move English away from just being a subject you study to a tool you actually use in the real world.
Yes. The source outlines a 2-semester approach that is very forward-thinking. Semester 1 is themed Local Roots, Global Reach.
Yeah, I saw the phrase, the more local, the more global in the notes. What does that actually mean in a classroom context?
It means connecting the students' immediate reality, their community, local tourism, environmental issues in Yilan, like the hot springs or the scallion farming, and connecting all of that to the UN Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs.
So instead of reading some generic textbook about a post office in London, they might be discussing how to promote Yilan's tourism to international visitors using sustainable practices.
Exactly. It makes the language incredibly relevant. It's like, I need English to explain my home to the world. It gives them a tangible reason to speak that goes way beyond just getting a passing grade on a test.
That's awesome. And then semester 2 takes a pretty hard turn into the future.
Future Career X AI. This is where it gets really modern.
Yeah.
They're using English to explore generative AI, career imagination, and global responsibility.
That is bold for a junior high curriculum. I mean, why bring AI into a language class?
Because English is basically the operating system of the global tech world right now. If you want to use the best AI tools, if you want to understand global tech trends, you generally need to be able to prompt in English. They are reframing English not as a set of rigid grammar rules to be memorized, but as a literal key to unlocking the future.
So we've got the psychology of safety, the structure of games, the layered differentiation, and this locally rooted, globally minded curriculum. But I'm really curious about how this workshop was actually delivered to the teachers themselves, because the source mentions something called the World Cafe.
Oh, the World Cafe is a fantastic format for professional development. And again, this is totally stealable for corporate retreats or team meetings. Instead of sitting in rows listening to a lecture for 3 hours, the teachers are actively cross-pollinating.
How do the logistics of that work?
You have tables set up all around the room. Each table has a host and a specific seed question. The teachers rotate tables every 15 or 20 minutes.
And the source lists some very specific seed questions. Things like how to help silent students or how to handle mixed-level differentiation.
Right, and how to create low-cost, high-efficiency teaching tools. By rotating, you are mixing the ideas constantly, A local teacher might have a great classroom management trick that the foreign teacher has never even seen, and the foreign teacher might have a creative game that the local teacher hasn't thought of.
It breaks down the silos.
Exactly. And it addresses the unique dynamic of the FET and the LOT working together. We touched on this earlier, but the workshop defines their roles very clearly, which I think is absolutely vital.
Because so often co-teaching just becomes one person teaches, one person watches, or one person teaches, one person acts as the disciplinarian.
Which is such a waste of resources. Tony's model divides it by function instead. The foreign teacher is responsible for expression language input, pronunciation, cultural stimulation. They are the living model of the language.
And the local teacher.
The local teacher is responsible for thinking, providing scaffolding, classroom management, and emotional support. They bridge the gap between the student's current ability and the foreign teacher's input.
It sounds like a true partnership. One brings the content, the other builds the bridge to access it.
And to ensure this doesn't just stay in the workshop as a nice idea, they provided a takeaway toolkit. Checklists, action plans, lesson templates. The idea is that you walk out on Friday afternoon and you have a Share Start lesson plan template ready to rock for Monday morning.
Which is the holy grail of any professional development, right? So often you leave feeling inspired but completely empty-handed. Here you leave with an actual roadmap.
It's very pragmatic.
So let's try to bring this all together for everyone listening. We started with that awkward, deafening silence in the room.
And we've traveled through a pretty comprehensive roadmap to fix it. We realized that to get from silence to active voice, you need safety. That safety comes from scaffolding laddering up from choral response to the pair whisper, so that by the time you actually ask for an opinion, the fear is just gone.
Then we realized you need structure to handle the energy. You can have fun, you can have a lot of noise, but you need the roles, the strict timers, and the nonverbal signals to keep it productive.
And finally, you need relevance and reach. You have to meet the students where they are through differentiation, that layered output, and connect the content to their actual lives today and their future with things like AI.
You know, it really strikes me that while we have been talking about junior high students in Yilan this whole time, absolutely nothing we've discussed is limited to a school environment.
Not at all. Think about the differentiation concept alone. If you are managing a team, you don't give the brand new intern and the senior VP the exact same task with the exact same expectations. You might give them the same project, but you define the output differently. That is layered output in the real world.
And the idea of the pair whisper before a big meeting discussion, that is just good facilitation. If you want better, bolder ideas from your team, give them 2 minutes to talk to a partner before you ask them to present to the CEO.
It's about recognizing that differentiation isn't about doing more work. It's about doing smarter work. It's about designing systems that actually accommodate human variation, rather than trying to force humans to fit into a rigid, one-size-fits-all system.
And realizing that silence isn't always compliance or apathy.
That is the big one for me. This workshop really challenges the baseline assumption that silence means, I don't know. It flips it entirely to, I don't feel safe.
So here is a final thought for you to chew on as you go about your week. We often get frustrated when people, maybe it's our kids, our employees, our colleagues, won't speak up. We think, why aren't they engaging? Why don't they have any ideas?
But if we apply Tony's philosophy, we really have to ask a fundamentally different question. Instead of asking, why aren't they speaking, we should ask, what risk am I asking them to take?
And have I built the ladder to help them climb over that fear?
Let's push that even further. Think about a community town hall, or even a tense conversation with a partner. If we stop treating their silence as stubbornness or a lack of knowledge, and start treating it as a lack of safety, how does that change your next move? Do you demand an answer, or do you build a scaffold?
It turns out the road to a loud, active, vibrant room starts with truly understanding the silence. Thank you for listening to this deep dive into the Yilan Foreign English Teachers Workshop. We'll catch you next time.